Next speaker up is a senator who's also an independent, another rigorous defendant of free speech and probably the loudest voice in the Seanad at the moment. Please put your hands together for Senator Sharon Keogan.
Hi, good evening to you all. Thank you very much for attending tonight. Thank you. Thank you very much, and I'm honoured to be here this evening and to be asked to speak at this event. So I basically wanted to, what is free speech? So the right to seek, receive and impart information and ideas of all kind by any means. The right to hold discussions about sensitive topics. The right to risk offence and to offend. The right to criticise, the right to hold and express deeply held beliefs, all without censorship or restraint. Why is it important or desirable that we should have this? It allows the free exchange of ideas, which allows them to live or die on their merit. I have spoken out on the reasons why international surrogacy, commercial surrogacy, should not be allowed in Ireland. No alternative voices were heard by witnesses by that committee on that issue, as the witness list was stacked with those who would advocate for surrogacy. It underpins the democratic system. Effective, open and honest debate is the bedrock of a healthy democracy. If you stifle the debate, you tip the scales in favour of the establishment. We know the left don't like debate. They don't want any opinion that doesn't match theirs. Hard questions must be asked and uncomfortable and inconvenient truths acknowledged if the real problems of any country are to be dealt with. Restriction on free speech or freedom of speech often do not allow for this. When it comes to issues regarding gender care for minors here in Ireland, I have been very vocal on this. I've highlighted the 275 Irish children who attended Crumlin Hospital that were referred to the Tavistock Clinic and the Hilary Cass report, which found serious breaches in the level of care these children got at Tavistock. I want a full independent inquiry for these children to make sure that they did get proper clinical care and support that they needed and were not coerced into treatment that they did not need. These children matter. If I don't ask these questions, what happens to all the children seeking gender care services? So without freedom of speech, this government is insulated against criticism and tightly controls what opposition is allowed to be levelled against its actions. The power within this bill may or could give the Gardaí or bad actors opportunities to maliciously target citizens whom they may consider to be inconvenient or a nuisance. It has happened before in this state. The Kerry Babies, the McBurties, the Morris McCabe, the Morris Tribunal. Movements that have genuinely extremist and are driven underground rather than having their ideas examined and critically appraised by the public. It's important we hear from those whom are accused of being on the right. We need to hear what they're thinking. We need to hear what they're feeling. So it's important that there is room for that debate. Official narratives go unchallenged, particularly where a country's media walks in lockstep with the political establishment, as it's largely the case here in Ireland. Forgive me, I didn't print the last bit of my speech. Progressive cultures have worked very hard to make certain topics, ideas, discussions, opinions taboo, shrinking the Overton window to a particular narrow slice of socially acceptable views which you must support wholeheartedly or face the consequences. For years now, terminally online progressives have delighted in causing people to lose their livelihoods on account of not having the correct opinions. The Tumblr kids of the 2000s are now the HR workers in the 2020s. Big businesses are terrified of not being seen to be progressive enough and will cut loose any employee to try and placate the mob. For at least the past decade, that culture has grown, and now finally it has reached critical mass. The government has decided to adopt this social and moral philosophy and sign it into law. No longer will keyboard warriors and the Twitterati have their own hands to label, defame, silence and cancel you. They can outsource that organ to the state and bring the full might of the law and the An Garda Síochána down on you instead. So why is this bill being pushed? The Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and Greens governments have decided to abide wholly by the social moral rubric of the progressive left, and to them the worst offensive possible is to offend and to criticise one of their protective groups. These groups are those who have been awarded special status by the left and deemed oppressed and marginalised, regardless of how well funded their movements are or how much political power their NGOs have. Their victimhood status cannot be challenged. This bill is the codification of that philosophy. The message is that approved topics only may be discussed by the public, and that there are certain groups and peoples who are above criticism. The intention is to instill a chilling effect, the inhibition or discouragement of the legitimate exercise of natural and legal rights by the threat of legal sanction. The government knows that the An Garda Síochána and the courts cannot possibly deal with the increased caseload that this bill will bring about. They're banking on people being cowed into silence by the threat of it and censoring themselves, saving the government having to do that job. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Keogan, and very good point you made there about the law itself doesn't actually have to stand up in court if anyone is ever to be prosecuted. It's just literally the fear of being prosecuted that will cause a chilling effect and have a dampening negative effect on free speech and discourse in this country.